I challenge you to a duel. It's the only argument I need.
I don't want to talk to you no more, you.
You got a lot of nerve.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated.
Stop defending him, Sean!
All right, let's go. I'm ready for go.
Hey sleepers, welcome to the 2018 Great Debate Recap Show. That's right, we are all done with the great debates for the 2018 season, and the main reason for that is that, you know what, we're going into week 12. The guys you're picking up off waivers right now are not guys that you're playing this week or hoping to stash or anything. Bye week hell is almost over aside from next week. We are at the point where it's time to look back on some of the great debates we did this season, because really the only thing we have left to talk about is handcuff stashes and defense stashes, which, let's face it, you're not going to put in a waiver claim for a defense anyway. So I am Professor Chris, and with me on the Great Debate Recap Show, I have, of course, Dirty Jobs Mike. How's it going, man?
Not too shabby, man. Not too shabby. Sad to see it all wrapping up, man. It's the end of the football season again.
It is.
Right.
Sad day indeed.
There's like a 2-3 month period coming up here because I don't like basketball, right? Like, I haven't liked basketball since Jordan retired. So until baseball starts, I just sit there and I just stare at a blank TV. But Red Dead Redemption, that's going to be my saving grace this time.
So you're like the little girl from Poltergeist, just sitting in front of the static television.
Yes, because I don't pay bills anymore. I stopped going to work. So, no. No, but I do miss the football season. I do miss it direly.
For all of our younger listeners, static TV is when it's got all fuzzy and goes, shh. It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, these are like that, the end of broadcast. That's another thing that those kids don't know what it is.
The end of broadcast. Why don't you elaborate?
Well, where it was like just the 5-colored slate and it said off air.
Oh,
when
yeah.
the TV used to say off air. You might even be too young for
No,
that.
dude, I know exactly what that is. All right, guys. So enough about how old Mike is. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So this season, we did 8 great debates in the summer/preseason. We did 9 in the regular season. And we're just going to briefly talk about each one of these, go through a recap, see which player outperformed the other, and so on. So we're going in order of the ones that we did this season. Kicking it off, the first one of 2018 was Davante Adams versus Keenan Allen. And we thought this was going to be a good one. We thought this one was going to be close. And turns out it is not unclose. I mean, with the way that Keenan Allen's been playing lately, I mean, Davante Adams is the wide receiver 4 right now, and Keenan Allen's outside of the wide receiver 1 range. But come on, at the time, right? Keep in mind, guys, that these were recorded in the summer before we have any of the knowledge that we have now. I think this one was in June. Mike, who would you have taken back then?
I was really high on Davante Adams, and I just kind of was low on Keenan Allen. But Keenan Allen actually has outperformed my expectations that I had for the guy. So props to Keenan Allen. I mean, you couldn't have really gone wrong with either of these guys. Although I feel like with Keenan Allen, it might have felt that way the first few weeks.
Yeah, it certainly did. I mean, and he wasn't even bad.
Right, he just wasn't putting up numbers like he is capable of and like he's doing now.
He just wasn't wide receiver 3.
Right.
Is what it was, which is okay. And for the record, that was Lucas and I, so that was a good one to kick off the season with. So far, Davante Adams looking like the correct call on that one. Number 2, this was, once again, guys, recorded before preseason. Jordan Howard versus Jerick McKinnon. And I actually had Joe Pollock from the Fantasy Takeaway on as a special guest, the first special guest of this season's Great Debate Series. And this is a good one. Of course, we know Jordan Howard won. Jerick McKinnon, torn ACL, out for season, missed the entire thing. So clearly it was going to be Jordan Howard by default, even if he got 1 rushing yard.
One thing that's kind of funny about it is he did outperform him, but outside of a couple games, he didn't outperform him by much. So
No, he certainly did not. Oh man, Howard has not been great by any stretch of the imagination. The third one that we did, I had Pat Fitzmaurice from the Football Girl and the Pat Fitzmaurice podcast. Super nice guy. Honestly, guys, probably the nicest guy in the entire fantasy football industry. Had him on for Josh Gordon versus Adam Thielen. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, this sounds like a stupid one. It's Adam Thielen all the way. But we didn't choose these great debates. And Mike knows this. We didn't choose these great debates based on, us thinking the players were close. We chose who to debate based on average draft position, where these guys were going. We took two guys at the same position who were going right next to each other in drafts. The same round or, maybe on the turn like the 4-12 and the 5-1, something like that. Josh Gordon and Adam Thielen were being drafted back to back. Mike, you remember this?
I do remember this. And it's kind of funny because you do look at that and you're like, that is baffling. But yeah, that's how it was going. I mean, you had people that were even higher on Diggs than Thielen. Just the opportunity with Kirk Cousins coming in and passing out to that position. So looking at this, it cracks me up because you're right. These guys were right next to each other, right in the same spot. And no, wow, not even close.
No, not at all. Now, Josh Gordon, I do still think he is going to be great rest of the season with the Patriots, and he's starting to prove that he is the guy there. But, Adam Thielen by a long shot. But yeah, these guys were going back-to-back in drafts, and that's why we chose him. And this is one of the frustrating things I've ranted about this before, and I'm going to say it again. Just a-holes on Facebook who will put this up. And, these guys aren't sleepers. I was like, yeah, it's called the Sleeper Wire Podcast, you moron. Like, I didn't say these guys were sleepers. Like, no shit. But Adam Thielen, like, why is this even a debate? And I was like, well, I'm not saying it's a debate. Mike's not saying it's a debate. The general public is saying this is a debate,
Yes.
Yeah.
By what you're doing. Yep, exactly.
Right, yeah. The average draft has them going back to back. That's why we're debating these guys. Let's move on to the fourth one that we did. We went back to running backs. We did Leonard Fournette versus Dalvin Cook. And due to injuries to both guys, it's not really looking like you wanted either guy on your team, and that's certainly been the case most of the season. But come on, it's Fournette, right?
Fournette for now, but I feel like Dalvin Cook's going to be one of those guys that finds himself on a lot of championship lineups.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. The fifth one that we did, I had Kyle from the Fantasy Football Fellas on for this one. We had Alvin Kamara versus Melvin Gordon, and this was probably the hardest one for me to do because it was the first time I'd ever not gotten to debate for Melvin Gordon. And Mike, you know how much I love Gordon. He's just a phenomenal player. He had him as my RB5 going into the season. He's the RB6 right now. I do think he is going to creep back up into RB5, which would be great for him. Alvin Kamara, currently the RB2, due to that amazing stretch that he had without Ingram, and his touchdown scoring ability is almost as good as Todd Gurley's. We got, 14 or 17 touchdowns for Gurley and 14 for Kamara. That's pretty great.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not too shabby. Kamara and either one of these guys again. You probably got the steal of the draft. You didn't get that first round pick or that third round pick and got Le'Veon Bell. You got Alvin Kamara and you got Melvin Gordon. Wow. If
I were to ask you this, everybody was concerned about Kamara's usage when Ingram came back. If I were to ask you this, who has more carries? Kamara or Melvin?
I would have to say Melvin, but I'm sure since you're asking me, it's got to be Kamara, right?
How many more carries would you say that Melvin has than Kamara, if he has more?
I would say probably 30 to 40.
Melvin Gordon has 125. Alvin Kamara has 123.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. See,
so
I knew
he is getting the work.
Right? So I knew there was something in there.
Yeah. He's getting the work, man. Alvin Kamara has been amazing this season. So he looks like the winner of that debate. But let's face it, it doesn't matter which guy you drafted. Like, you were super happy with the results. Both are incredibly consistent and putting up incredibly high scores for you every single week. Next one, the sixth one that we did this season, Tyreek Hill versus Larry Fitzgerald. And of course, this one is Tyreek Hill. It was Tyreek Hill when we were doing this one, when we originally chose these players. But once again, guys, this was Hoos and I. We took guys who were being drafted in the third round back to back. And that's exactly how the ADPs were falling. Third round for these guys, which it's crazy to look back now. It's always fun to look back in these recap shows and see, wait, Larry Fitzgerald was a third round pick?
Right. Tyreek Hill was a third round pick?
Yeah.
That's something like, I mean, that guy, to me, you won't see him make it past the second next year. I guarantee it.
Oh, no. Not even close. He'll go probably top 15.
Yeah.
He's a wide receiver, too, through 10 weeks.
Yeah. Guy's amazing.
Yeah, having a ridiculous season. 7 was Allen Robinson versus Golden Tate. And as of right now, if we look at the scoring, I believe it is fairly close for these guys, but I think Golden Tate is coming out ahead. Yep, and in PPR, Golden Tate has 121.8. Allen Robinson has 96.8. So, yeah, Golden Tate doing a little bit better. I'm not sure if that's going to continue him being in Philly. I mean, Allen Robinson did miss a couple games here and there, didn't he? Yeah, he missed 2.
Yeah, he did miss a couple games, and I think that things are trending up for Allen Robinson, and I think things are trending down for Golden Tate.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, you can easily make that argument. This was actually when we had Jabba on for his very first great debate of the season. So he's been a great guy to have with a Sleeper Wire crew this season. And first one, I was glad we were able to get him in over the summer. Number 8, by default, Alex Collins is the winner. We did Jay Ajayi versus Alex Collins, and this was the first season I had ever been semi-high on Jay Ajayi. I was like, you know what? If he's there, I'll take him in the 4th round. I think he's going to get the work. How'd you feel about Ajayi coming into the season?
I never fell for it. I've always just disliked Ajayi. I've got 2 things I can hang my fantasy hat on, and that's that I've never suggested Jay Ajayi, and I've never suggested Devin Funches. Even though I've been wrong a couple times on both, in the long run, I feel really good about both of those decisions.
Oh, yeah? And you know what? Looking at these, we did not do tight ends over the summer. But the main reason for that is that tight ends are being drafted all over the place. I mean, the top 12 are being drafted anywhere within the top 15 rounds. You know, like, really the only guys that were going next to each other were Zach Ertz and Travis Kelce. And let's face it, that's a pretty boring debate. You know,
right.
Like, both of these guys are amazing. So when people were saying, oh, why don't you do, like, I don't know, David Johnson versus Ezekiel Elliott? It's because there's nothing bad we can say about these guys.
Right.
You know, at the time. Of course, now we could look back and be like, well, if Mike McCoy is going to be the offensive coordinator, then don't pick David Johnson.
Yes.
But at the time, that was super boring. It was the same thing with Zach Ertz and versus Travis Kelce. Both of those guys are amazing. But we didn't really have any tight ends who were going, you know, in the same round after them.
Right. No, and I mean, really at the same time, I mean, we can talk about both of these guys, you know, Ertz and Kelce, and then everybody else, I mean, they've had good productive weeks, but man, the tight end position as a whole has just been dreadful this entire season.
Yep, it certainly has been. Well, let's go ahead and jump into regular season. So, Mike, you and I kicked off the Week 1 Great Debate. I guess technically it was the Week 2 Great Debate, but it was the one that happened after Week 1, waiver wires for Week 2. We did Philip Lindsay versus Austin Eckler, and Lindsay has certainly taken over that. He's been a solid RB2 all season. Austin Eckler is closer to the RB3, mid RB3 range.
I mean, he hasn't been the worst guy to have. At the time, it looked like he was going to get a whole lot more usage than he was. But now I feel like Eckler's just a guy that you have on your team if you have Melvin Gordon. And Philip Lindsay, man, that guy is on fire. I am loving watching that guy as a Broncos fan.
Yeah, he's been killing it, man. We talk about Melvin Gordon having 125 carries. Philip Lindsay has 110. He's been getting the rock.
Yeah, he has. Royce Freeman being injured hasn't hurt that much, but you know we saw him and Booker out there yesterday, and Lindsay was the guy they went to, and I hope they continue to do that.
Yeah, if I'm looking at his scores right now in PPR leagues, Lindsey only has one game under double-digit points, and that was the game against Baltimore that he got thrown out.
Yeah. Trying to get football.
Yeah. It was dumb. But yeah, double-digit points every single week. I mean, the guy's been getting it done for you. And I actually argued for Austin Eckler in that one, didn't I? You wanted Lindsey.
Yes, sir. Broncos, baby.
It was certainly weird for me being a huge Melvin fan arguing for Eckler. But you know what? Sometimes that's how it is. The point of the debate is to find unbiased and objective stats-based arguments for and against players. We take that personal bias out of it. And that is why I was okay with letting Pat Fitzmaurice be like, hey, do you care if I take Adam Thielen? Because I like him and I don't like Josh Gordon. I was like, well, it's supposed to be unbiased, Pat. But anyways, it was super great of him to come on. Also super great of Joe and Kyle from the Fantasy Takeaway and Fantasy Football Fellas, respectively. Let's move to our second great debate of the 2018 season, Antonio Callaway versus Keelan Cole. And neither one of these guys has really panned out.
Yeah. If one of them it's going to be Antonio Callaway because he's actually had a productive week in there. So, yeah, wow. Both these guys, what a letdown.
And I will say this, after we did that great debate, the next week, Antonio Callaway did score a touchdown.
Yep.
So week 3, or going into week 2, scored a touchdown that week. He is, I believe, if I'm looking at it correctly, the wide receiver 61 on the season, and Keelan Cole is the wide receiver 68. So neither guy has been great. Keelan Cole's been a huge disappointment after how amazing he was, the last 5 or 6 weeks of last season.
Yeah, I just kind of thought we were going to see a lot more of that, man. I was really high on that guy coming into the season because it seemed to me like he was the forgotten guy, and
he was.
Nope, it just did nothing.
He was. And there was that one week when you, Hoos, and I were creating the rankings where I texted both of you separately. I was like, do you guys seriously have Keelan Cole ranked in the top 12? Like, are you freaking kidding me? And I know Fantasy Pros, like the consensus rankings had him up there too. And I was like, guys, like, what am I missing? Because I had him outside of my top 30.
Right.
Yeah.
And just what happened in last season and the connection, and there should have been more of that, and it just never happened.
Yeah, there should have been. Let's move on to the next one. We did Geronimo Allison versus Calvin Ridley. And it was looking pretty good for Calvin Ridley at first, and then it started looking really good for Geronimo Allison. Right now, I believe both of them are in the top 50. Let me verify that real quick. Geronimo, where are you? Maybe they're both outside the top 50. I know Geronimo Allison has missed a bunch of games. Calvin Ridley had that stretch of a bunch of touchdowns, but he's been pretty unreliable. Oh, never mind. Calvin Ridley is wide receiver 2.
Okay, yeah.
Scrolled right over his name.
He did have a few productive weeks to put together. And, Geronimo Allison, that was a devastating loss to that team, man.
It was.
It sucks. I'm going to miss Geronimo Allison. I think he's going to be a guy I want to talk about a lot next season and in the off season as well.
Yeah, looking at what he did, 5 for 69 and a touchdown, 6 for 64, 2 for 76 and a touchdown, 6 for 80. He was Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver 2. He was great.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. Fourth one, Cameron Brate versus Tyler Kroft. And this one was really an out of necessity. We had Tyler Eifert go down that week, and we also had Jameis Winston come back from suspension that week. And I was like, guys, you know what? If Winston's a quarterback, Cameron Brate, going to be great. He caught a touchdown that week, not last week, but I believe that was his only target as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, he didn't do much with O.J. Howard out there, but now it might actually be Cameron Brate time.
Yep, could be. And Tyler Kroft, we know, injured, not doing anything. Honestly, it should have been Cameron Brate versus C.J. Uzomah, but it's still probably Cameron Brate as the winner because Uzomah has been so disappointing.
Well, even with you could have played Tyler Kroft or you could have played C.J. Uzomah and had similar results. So
yeah, disappointment either way.
Yep, absolutely.
Number 5, Alfred Morris versus Wendell Smallwood. And this was more of a necessity play, a weekly play, if you will. This was when Matt Breida was supposed to be out. Alfred Morris had been getting the carries. He was supposed to be the guy. And Jay Ajayi went down that week, so it was, all right, do you want Morris this week, who has been in a Shanahan offense and been successful, or do you want Wendell Smallwood, the guy who's supposed to be the lead guy after Jay Ajayi went down? And that was the week that Matt Breida was like, you know what? I think I'm going to play. And Alfred Morris got no carries. All I needed was 1 point from him to win in one of my leagues. 1. And, did you remember Matthew Berry's rant about that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That was so great.
That was fantastic.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, Alfred Morris, so clearly not the answer for the whole season. This was just a weekly great debate. Who do you play this week? Wendell Smallwood has definitely been the better player. Even then, he's not been good, but of the two, he's been the better guy. Number 6 for regular season, we had Taylor Gabriel versus Chris Godwin, and this was a good one. Mike, were you on this one?
I feel like I did the Taylor Gabriel, but again, man, I just feel like I did some of these and some of these I didn't. I just can't remember.
Let me look. I mean, we do so many of these.
Yeah, it seemed like I was on a lot of them.
No, this was Jabba. So Taylor Gabriel versus Chris Godwin. This was a fun one. He argued for Godwin, I ordered for Gabriel, which was interesting. It was fun digging into his stats and his speed and just seeing how much of a weapon that guy actually is. So he's going to be fun to watch in the future, I think, with Mitch Trubisky. He's been a little bit of disappointment this season. Chris Godwin has had some monster games, man. He's been great for a big part of the season.
Yeah, it's too bad there's so many weapons on that team.
I know.
Because the guy is so talented, but I mean, so is everybody else out there. Get this guy on a team that doesn't have a good receiver, and he would just be lights out, one of the best receivers out there. But yeah, to me, I really still like Curtis Godwin.
You mean Chris Godwin?
Chris Godwin, yeah. I don't know why I said Curtis. Got Curtis.
Curtis on the brain, that's right. Chris Godwin is a wide receiver 3. And did I say Curtis? Oh, Mike, you messed me up, Mike. Chris Godwin is a wide receiver 3. Taylor Gabriel is the wide receiver 46. So they're not really close right now. Week 7, Hoos and I did Danny Amendola versus Dante Moncrief, and Amendola looked really good that following week in PPR leagues. Dante Moncrief's been getting the targets. It's still a little too early to call which one of these guys was the better pickup. But I think both of them are serviceable. I have been playing Danny Amendola in the Pro-Am every single week since I picked him up that week.
Yeah, he's been serviceable, and Dante Moncrief's been the target monster there in Jacksonville. So, right. I mean, to me, it's not great, but when you're talking about fill-ins, and especially if you're talking about like the vastness that is the waiver wire in a Pro-Am, that's not bad. I mean, right. You're going to be getting that 10 to 12 points that you can count on.
Yeah, some weeks we just have crap options, shit players to choose from. And, I'm not happy that we did Amendola versus Moncrief. That was just one of those weeks, And
you probably aren't happy that you had to play him in your Pro-Am.
No.
But you do what you got to do to win. That's what we do.
You got to do.
That's it.
Totally right, man. Next one that we did, I welcomed producer Steve for his first great debate ever in, 3 seasons of doing this. The first one for him, Christian Kirk versus Anthony Miller. And, when I was doing this, I was like, oh, Kirk's got it. He's been playing great. He is the guy to own here. I was wrong. It's Anthony Miller.
Yeah, both of these guys have been really, really good. I think they both scored this last weekend. So, rookie wide receivers, they're kind of a hard thing to gauge at the beginning of the season. They kind of start getting developed more and more. I think both of these guys are going to be good to own next year. I think these are going to be 2 guys I target late because they're not going to be going early. So I feel like both of these guys are going to return some value next season.
I agree. And right now, Christian Kirk is the wide receiver 53. Anthony Miller is the wide receiver 56. But, honestly, I think the touchdowns keep coming for Anthony Miller. And, he also missed a game, and they're only separated by, 5.4 points? 88 to 82 points. So 4.2 points. 5.2 points. That's not much. Anthony Miller's got 5 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, he's been real good, and he's been getting used more and more every game.
Yes, he has.
Earning that spot and doing something with it.
And the last one that we did, it was running back handcuffs, Spencer Ware versus Malcolm Brown. Guys, if you have not gone and checked your waivers to see if these guys are available, put in those claims this week. There is a good chance that if the Rams keep winning, they are going to, they're certainly going to not play Gurley in week 17 for more than a series. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they played him for more than a quarter in week 16 if they've got it all wrapped up. Malcolm Brown is going to be the guy to own in LA for the Rams. Spencer Ware is the guy to own for Kansas City. So, Mike, if they're both available, who would you rather pick up?
For me, Malcolm Brown seems to be the guy that is going to be the guy that plays. It's been proven before that they bench these guys. Maybe Kareem Hunt doesn't have to get sat because Chargers can keep going on their run. Although they did just lose to Denver. That's a divisional thing. You know how that goes. For me, it would still be Malcolm Brown, though. I just like that high-octane offense, and I feel like the probability's higher.
Now, say Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley both got injured. Who's going to be better?
To me, I'd still say Malcolm Brown.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of product of the system of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you said, that there's a very good chance that we see him play without injuries happening. Spencer Ware, you're never hoping for an injury to a stud like Kareem Hunt, but he's more of the only way he gets played is if there's an injury.
Right. Yep. Or to vulture a Kareem Hunt touchdown.
Yeah, which you certainly don't want as the Kareem Hunt owner.
Right. He did that, I think, 2 weeks ago now, but it wasn't last.
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
I knew it was recent. I just know that it made me sad.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for the Great Debate recap. We had 17 great debates this season. Like I said, we decided not to go further into the offseason because at some point it's going to be like, oh, which guy do you want to put your waiver claim in to never play? And I think about week 11, week 12 is a good stopping point for the Great Debate show on who to pick up on waivers, because we're more like focused on the playoffs at this point. But Mike, thank you so much for joining me on the Great Debate recap, man. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, it always is fun, man. I love the Great Debates. I look forward to continuing them with you, good sir. They're always fun. They're always informative. I don't know how many times I've come out of them with a changed opinion about a player, swapped out that player, and it's won me a week. So
yeah, I don't know how many times I've gone into them and changed my opinion based on my own research either.
Right, same here. Yeah, you're starting to look at it, and you're like, man, he has a 40 time of that, and you're like, whoa. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, follow us on Twitter at Sleeper Show. Join us, or Mike and I, on Twitter so you can keep up with us throughout the off season. I mean, of course, the regular season is not over yet, but also throughout the off season, Dirty Jobs 21 and Prof_Chris SW. You can also find us on Sleeper at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris, and then on the Fantasy Life app at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris as well. Guys, thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in to the Great Debates this season. And you know what? We'll catch you guys next season. Good luck in the playoffs.
Good luck. Win them all.